So the Big 12 is a bit of a trendsetter here with something that we're seeing pop up in college athletics now in this revenue sharing era, right, that we're about to enter into. Schools are going to need $20.5 million to pay athletes up to the full revenue sharing mark. The Big 12 seems to be at the forefront of an important trend that is being shaped by the need for cash. All these schools have the need for cash. And this, frankly, this trend is not something I ever thought that I would see. Not something I ever thought that I would live to see the day of in college athletics. And that is, it's about coaching salaries, guys. These guys make a lot of money. I don't know how much attention all of you pay to the crazy numbers. It's already been discussed tonight. Jimbo Fisher got, I believe it was $76 million to go away from Texas A&M, 76 or 78. It's believed that Lincoln Riley's buyout right now is $88 million. $88 million. 6-6 Lincoln Riley has USC in a chokehold with that thing, man. That is a crazy amount of money. And we just saw Bill Belichick get $10 million a year from North Carolina. 3 of it guaranteed, basically. It's a lot of money, man. It's a lot of money. Coaching salaries have been getting crazier for a long time, and guess we just assumed they would all continue to climb and get wilder and wilder, even as that era up through about 2021 when like Brian Kelly, Lincoln Riley, Jimbo Fisher were all getting hired, were like these 10-year guaranteed contracts where you get these insane buyouts on those things. But we're seeing plenty of evidence now that the tide is really turning with all of that. And a lot of it is coming from right here in the Big 12. For instance, like West Virginia just hired Rich Rod. I had missed his salary number until just a second ago, or at least if I had seen it, it didn't fully register with me. And I was like, man, okay. West Virginia's paying Rich Rod $3.5 million. That's pretty reasonable. That's less than what Neil Brown was making. Neil Brown got up to $4 million. That's less than Neil Brown. It would have ranked 15th in the Big 12 this past year. Rich Rod's salary. Now, West Virginia is also making a huge investment into revenue sharing and what they're going to pay athletes. So they're doing that with some big help, right? Arizona Diamondbacks owner, Pat McAfee, got a lot of guys to help there. But also it helps when you're not paying your head coach $10 million. If you're paying Rich Rod $3.5 million, it's a pretty good bargain, man. It's a pretty good bargain. Mike Gundy just renegotiated his contract. He was making $7.75 million. Side note on that, I do a little bit of work in real estate, and I saw it was on Zillow Gone Wild recently within the last year. Mike Gundy's house that he was selling in Stillwater came up. It is obscenely large and just grand. Gundy's house was insane. The guy's making a lot of money. He's made a lot of money for a long time, $7.75 million, but no longer. Part of that whole negotiation, are you going to stick around? Will we try to fire you with cause? It was to renegotiate his deal so that he can give some of that money back to NIL for the players. It was reported that he was on board to do that, but they wanted him to give more than what his idea of giving back to that was. So he's being forced now to take a salary cut and give a lot of that money to players. Mike Norvell at Florida State. This is not in the Big 12, but Mike Norvell at Florida State. This just happened. I mean, the guy had a disaster of a year. He's giving back $4.5 million. $4.5 million that he is taking from his pocket and giving it to his players by throwing that back in toward revenue sharing NIL. This is happening now. This is a trend. Now, if you want to look at this and say, okay, John, but these are guys that didn't have really a ton of leverage. All right, like, fair enough. There is a part of that at play here. Like, obviously, Mike Gundy didn't have a whole lot of leverage when the other option was, hey, bud, the school's going to try and fire you basically for cause. On whether or not they have stable grounds to do that or not, I don't know, but you're going to be gone and you're going to have to, like, fight a lawsuit at the same time. That doesn't sound very appealing. So it's either that or just give in and give your players money, which you were already open to, like opening the door on doing that anyway. Mike Gundy did not have much leverage. Mike Norvell, again, another guy that I don't know the Florida State had any way to fire him with cause, but they've shown in conference realignment they don't really need legitimate reason to do anything. They'll start digging. They'll find some nepotism charge to throw at Mike Norvell like they did toward John Swafford in the ACC. Not a lot of leverage there when you win 2 games. Mike Norvell was also in a tough spot. And Rich Rod didn't exactly have a bunch of suitors beating down his door, right? He's going to take whatever, as long as it's somewhat within the realm of what other coaches are making. Rich Rod's going to take whatever it is that you offer him there to be your head coach. Beats the hell out of where his coaching career kind of was after going out in a blaze of glory at Arizona. But this still, to me, no matter what you want to say about how much leverage guys did or did not have, this is pretty fascinating that this is happening. And it will be a really interesting trend to watch throughout the sport, because think about how much the power dynamic has shifted in college football just in the last 5 to 10 years. I can still remember, K-State example here, but I can still remember it's 2017, the Corey Sutton thing. Bill Snyder not wanting to grant a release to Corey Sutton, a receiver, to be able to transfer. Remember, that was a thing. You would have to get a release from your school. So the coaches could control your destiny and or just limit destinations for you as a transfer. It was not that long ago, man. 2017, that's not that long ago. And anyway, there's a lot of controversy there because of some things Snyder said, kind of running him down a bit in the media. That was not that long ago. And now we're here where not only can the players just get paid whatever, literally whatever, just open season, they're revenue sharing. They can transfer at the drop of a hat whenever they want, wherever they want, as many times as they want. They've got all the power. Coaches have nothing anymore. Nothing. And they're still getting paid well, but now they're even losing their salary. They're having to pay money back to the players. And I'm not saying I have anything wrong with that at all. I have no issues with that. But if you're just taking a neutral perspective on this, taking a step back, that is a wild change from where the sport was forever, but even just not that long ago. Somebody was always going to have to foot the bill for $20.5 million being paid to players, right? The money was going to have to come from somewhere. And a lot of this you knew was going to be from facilities, because that was the old way to just spend all this frivolous money that was in the sport, in addition to obviously coaches. But hey, just dump it into all we can do. We can't really directly pay the players. So we got to use this somewhere. Let's just build the best facilities to give us recruiting advantages that way. You knew that facilities would take it on the chin. I would not have guessed that you were going to see coaches start taking it on the chin like this. Now, I'm not crying over it. Mike Gundy's going to be just fine. He's going to be just fine. Mike Norvell is going to be just fine, even while giving back $4.5 million. I get it. But I do also kind of wonder, will this be another thing? Will it get to the point where this will be another thing that makes coaches want to turn away? There's always been this, I would say it's an overblown narrative, but a narrative out there coaches are not as gung-ho on coaching in college football anymore because of everything they have to deal with. And if they're having to deal with it, and now you're saying, hey, take a big chunk, 40% of your paycheck, and you're going to have to pay it out, you will have to get rid of that. I don't know. Maybe there will be more coaches starting to leave. Maybe that leads to more Bill Belichick, Mike Vick, Deion Sanders coaches coming in, guys that wouldn't necessarily need the money, that are outside the box. Just something to keep your eye on, how the dynamics will continue to shift in the sport over all of this. The Big 12 is at the forefront of it. Click the $ below the chat box if you have something, if you want to be on the show tonight. Starter 179 in here again. I appreciate you, man. Do you think all Big 12 schools will be able to pay the full house settlement, $22 million a year? Well, the number right now that's being thrown out officially by everybody is 20.5 for this first year. Which schools won't be able to afford it? It's probably unfair for me to totally speculate on this. What I can tell you is I did directly ask Brett Yormark that question at Big 12 basketball media days in October in Kansas City. And he said basically we're going to commit to competing at the highest level, but he kind of stopped short of saying, yeah, everybody will be able to hit that. They did not know that as a guarantee at that point. So I don't know. I mean, it seems like Houston would be one school that I would wonder a bit about where their commitment is at on that. Like Dana Holgerson kind of questioned that. I think, Texas Tech taking Sheil Wood was in large part because of money there. Will they be able to commit enough to it? That is one school that I would wonder about. But I would guess that most Big 12 schools are going to at least come close. And some of this is why, Brett Yormark had been peeking into like private equity. I mean, they're looking at all these different ways they can help the schools out in doing it. It certainly seems like there's a better chance than I would have initially thought that most, if not all, schools are at least going to be there. West Virginia is another one. Like Ren Baker said recently that like that is definitely their plan, intending to get to that. So I would think you're going to see it's just going to become the cost of doing business. Like come hell or high water, you're going to have to figure out some way to do it because schools in the Big 12 are doing it in large numbers there. So appreciate you, Starter 179. It's a good question. It's a really good question.